What's up guys, Jeff here with Grit City Fitness and Performance. Today I want to talk to you about a very hot topic, and that topic is why your body feels like it's getting bulky and why you must continue to train through that point, all right? Now the reason I say you must continue to train past that point is because oftentimes, especially women, they'll start training and they'll start to see a result, but then they come to this point where they feel bulky, and I'm going to explain this whole thing. They feel bulky, so what they do is they stop training altogether, they step away. Now what happens when the reaction of that is not a positive one. It actually will hinder long-term as well as short-term because your body is actually right at the point where it's very close to transformation. So let me explain a little bit more and then we'll fill in these gaps that I just explained. So first off, let's first understand how the body is layered per se. Now, hopefully you guys can see this good on video, but basically we've got the bone. Our bone is the first inner layer, right? Imagine it's the core of our body. Okay, so let's look at the arm. It's the arm here, we've got our bone. Now outside of the bone is going to be tendons and ligaments, which you guys actually don't really see, but outside of the bone is layers of muscle, okay? So it goes bone, muscle, bone, tendons, ligaments, stuff like that. Bone, tendon, ligaments, muscles, then another layer, which then is the fat layer, so that red layer, and then the skin layer. So if we look at this, what we've got here is bone first on the inside, we've got muscle around the outside, around the muscle we've got fat, and around the fat we've got skin. Now depending on how much muscle or body fat you have will depend on how thick you look, right? Per se, fluffiness. We all have muscle underneath, and muscle is 1/3 the size of fat per pound. So basically if we were to say like, if this was a ruler, right, not a ruler, sorry, this is a eraser right now, but imagine this was 1 pound of fat. Well, if we knew that this was 1 pound of fat, 1 pound of muscle would be about 1/3 of it, right? Literally cut in a third. All right, so one thing is the muscle is not necessarily making you bulky. What is making you bulky is the layer of fat around it. Now I also want to use a different frame here. When Michelangelo was sculpting out of clay, when he was sculpting sculptures out of clay, initially it formed as one big block. Then he chipped it around and started to form the look or visual of a person. Now as he got closer to actually getting the sculpture of a person down, there was points in that sculpture where it looked like a shitty blob, right? It didn't look as optimal. But if he were to leave it there, he would be unsatisfied with the result, okay? Instead though, he needs to keep sculpting it away. Not stopping and saying, no, it doesn't look good because right now the shoulders are defined, but the arms look bulky, right? That doesn't make sense. So he had to continue to sculpt away the sculpture until all the extra clay was off of the body parts. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. Now the other idea here I want you to remember is when we were younger, or ladies, if you've ever cut your hair really short, there's this awkward time during the growth stage where you just feel like it's absolutely hideous. What do? You wouldn't just say, oh, well, my hair looks like shit, let me just cut it back to shorter because that's where it was before. You'd say, man, okay, let me work through this just a little longer and then grow my hair out to where it's back to normal and better suited, where I enjoy it more. So what I want you to realize here is that when you are feeling bulky, what the bulkiness is actually the layer of fat. Not the training that you're doing, but the fat that you still have on your body, right? So again, the muscle has to be here. The muscle is what helps us perform, helps boost our metabolism, helps improve our fitness, helps make us healthier, right? Also, the more you have of muscle tone on your body, the more your metabolism increases. Basically, every pound of muscle per se is like a log on a fire. It helps increase and improve the size and intensity of the fire, which is your metabolism, okay? So, hopefully these kind of pieces make sense now. We understand the idea of how the muscles are layered with body fat. We understand the idea behind the sculpting of clay. We also understand the idea of having a really shitty haircut because it's in that weird, awkward growth stage. Now, the same things are happening inside of your body. When you start to feel bulky, what again is happening is, if I was that sculpture, we have this clay. right? And we've started to take form and shape around our body. The arms are starting to cut out, the legs are starting to cut out, but the clay has not been removed yet. But that doesn't mean the clay is wrong. It doesn't mean the sculpture was wrong. It means that there's still too much clay. And the clay in this part is going to be the excess fat layer. The fat in this case is what actually is making you feel bulky, fluffy, puffy, looks like you got stung by a bumblebee, or just not like your body is shaped the way it wants to be. Now, you have two options here. The first option is saying, I'm going to stop doing what I'm doing because my body is getting bulky. Or the other option is realize you're in the sculpting portion of this process and we need to figure out how to sculpt off more. While we can't take a scalpel or a scraper like we would with clay, we have to do something with our training or our nutrition. Now, the training is not the issue here. What is the issue is that we still maintain layers of body fat. And that layers of body fat is, again, what makes us bulky. So what do? Do we stop training? Do we do a different exercise or do different activities? Or what do we do? That is the main question that most of us face when we get to this, why is my body bulky and what do I do about it? So here's the answer. You keep doing what you're doing inside of your training and you improve your nutrition. Here's the thing, guys. Your nutrition is the main focus of what your body starts to look like from the inside out, okay? The inside out. Your training helps define and sculpt the body while the nutrition helps take the weight away from you, per se, okay? It helps reduce and eliminate the body fat. The training is not making you bulky. What's making you bulky is the excess layers of body fat that you have. The way to get rid of and remove the body fat is to improve the nutrition to where you're in a calorie deficit for your body. Now, you might be saying, Jeff, I've been on a diet. I eat good. I do this. The truth is, if I were to say I did good in school, that means I got a C. If you're not tracking, you have no fucking idea where you're currently at. That's the truth. If you're not tracking, you have no idea how many calories you're actually consuming and if it's working for your body. So really what you're doing is throwing shit at a wall and hoping it sticks. And then blaming what you're doing that's actually working on the reason your body isn't changing. The truth is your body is changing and it's changing underneath the fat layer. But the reason it's not changing for you to see is because the fat layer is not being cut or trimmed down. And to cut and trim the fat layer down, we must adjust nutrition, okay? Not the training, because the training is actually, again, helping us increase the muscle tone, increasing the amount of muscle, which increases the amount of metabolism you have. And the metabolism carries over to weight loss. Your metabolism carries over to the amount of calories you can consume per day. Your metabolism carries over to your overall health, right? So the last thing you want to do is stop doing something that's actually benefiting it, and you actually want to look at what's hindering it. And again, what's hindering your result is your nutrition, okay? So what you really want to focus on here is improvement of nutrition to remove the bulkiness. Not change your training, because the training is not causing the bulkiness. The bulkiness is caused from the fat layers that you have. So if you're over 15% body fat, the reason your body is not toning down and it's still looking bulky is because you've got excess layers of body fat, much like excess layers of clay. And the only way to remove that and make your body not look bulky is to shim it off. And the only way to shim that off is by either getting surgery or by improving your nutrition in a way that is calorie deficit to what your body needs. Now, don't just say, okay, I'm eating this much, I'm going to drop to 1,000. That's not going to work. Your body's actually going to get fucked up that way too. But it's adjusting in a way that manages where your current metabolism is in the state that is required, and then adjusting just slightly lower than that to have a positive impact on your weight loss by having a proper caloric deficit that helps shim off the layer of fat. As you shim off that layer of fat, it again is shimming off the layers of clay, performing and sculpting your body in the ideal way. All right, so again, let's step back one more time. We have to realize that body fat is the reason that our bodies look puffy, thick, swollen, or not ideal. With body fat is much like excess clay on a sculpture. We must get rid of the excess clay to make the sculpture look how we want. What we don't want to do is stop sculpting. We want to stop eating in a way that's making our bodies not lose the weight that we want. So one main thing for most people is you need to be tracking your calories. All calories that you consume. That includes beverages. That includes anything that you put in your mouth should be tracked, right? Most of you guys are still in this fat layer and excess fat layers because one, you're not tracking, but two, you're not tracking the things that you're consuming inside of beverages. Most of you guys are consuming 300 to 500 calorie drinks. Like a Red Bull is 300 calories, a coffee from Starbucks is about 400, and then you've got these things that you're wondering why it's not working the way you want. But the truth is, the training and workouts that you're doing is actually moving you in the right direction. What is not moving you in the right direction is the way that you're eating. And by fixing the eating, you'll fix the problem of bulkiness. Simply by changing your nutrition in a way that works in cohesion with the way that you're training will actually give you the body and the sculpt that you want without having bulky body parts. But again, you must not stop when you feel bulky. You must continue to sculpt yourself away to make yourself the sculpture that you want. Again, it's just like that haircut. If you had that haircut and it was nice when it was short, but you had that awkward growth stage, that's where you're at when you're usually inside the bulky phase. You're in the awkward growth stage. You have to continue to push through that and let the hair grow out a little bit longer to where it then becomes something that you can work with, enjoy, and like to look at. The same thing happens with your body. That happens by, again, increasing your workout's intensity by increasing increased muscle tone, as well as changing and adjusting your nutrition to reduce the calories, to eliminate body fat, which helps reduce the layer of bulkiness, which helps make you have the sculpted, toned, defined body that you want. So that is basically why it's important that you don't just stop what you're doing because you're feeling bulky, but realize something is not lining up, and usually it's going to be the nutrition aspect. And that nutrition aspect plays a huge role in the fat layers that you have. And those fat layers are what is really the bulkiness that you are carrying around. Because if I was to, let's see here, if I was to carry around my iPad, just my iPad, imagine my iPad being muscle, it's not bulky, it's important, right? Carry it around. But then I say, oh, well, I've got this headphone case. It doesn't have headphones in it, but I need to carry it around anyways, right? So now I put it in here. Now I'm carrying around bulk. All I needed was the iPad. I have bulk, which is the case. If I remove the case, now I don't have bulk, right? The same thing applies for, again, your body and the way your body looks, feels, and performs. The bulkiness is coming from the body fat, not from the muscle tone. So keep training hard, keep training in an effective way. Start working on managing your nutrition, and then you'll see the proper changes in your body composition. Then you'll be excited and motivated about the results that you're seeing, and you're actually going to see your body sculpt, shrink, tone, and define the way that you want.